So remember, if you have anything in rural, apply to the ROUS for those sites. And then for projects that are in non-rural areas, apply for those pieces from NTIA in the VTOP. That's how they want you to do it. Shelley, you can't go ahead before I said. I'm just teasing you. You can leave it there. Okay. So what types of projects are fundable? This just does a little tiny summary. Over on the left, you'll see what you can do in VTOP, which is the NTIA, broadband infrastructure, and they separated last mile from middle mile projects, which was interesting. I was very excited to see middle mile in there. We have a lot of problems with that in our rural areas, so that's really cool. The second area is public computer centers. Third is sustainable broadband adoption. And then in NTIA, it's important to know that the feds will put up 80% funding, but you've got to show that you have 20% funding yourself, non-federal matching funding. So I think if you go in there without that 20%, you're going to have trouble. It did look like they allowed in kind. Those that read the NOFA, I think I saw that somewhere. Are people nodding? They seem to be nodding. Okay, good. And I thought that was very promising. We had been lobbying for that. So that's good. Okay, on the right side, this is the rural projects, the Broadband Initiative program, the BIP. Love that name. And this is different because first thing, they're going to do loans. They can potentially do grants if you have no money. There's some states with no money. And you can also do loan grants. So unlike the requirement of 80% funding, 20% match over on the left side, the RUS is different. The first main gating factor is the 75%. You have to go to the RUS if your project has at least 75% of the funded area in a rural area that lacks sufficient access to broadband. And they have a definition for that. So you must file with RUS if you fall into this definition. You can also apply to VTOP at the same time. And the NTIA can only award a project if the RUS had denied it. And you must show that the project can be fully funded. And they did have a preference on the right side for those that asked for loans over those that asked for grants. And you'll see that in the scoring later. That's how they did it. Next slide. Okay, there's a two-step application process. Step one is eligibility. They basically are going to look at the applications to see if you've met the eligibility criteria and the guidelines. There is handouts. Shelley, did we put the, okay. So we have nice people on the East Coast who collected the handouts from the NTIA RUS workshops that occurred in Maryland and Boston, I guess, this week. This one is the infrastructure one, but there are other ones, and I handed that one out today because that's all I had yesterday. But this morning I found other handouts for the computer center and sustainable broadband adoption. It's a little skinnier than this. I found it at sustainablebroadband.com, which is Peter Pratt's site. He's got a pretty good site, by the way. And if you go to Peter Pratt's site, stimulatingbroadband.com, click on the Broadband Stimulus Library. Then you just stick in your name and your address, your email. It's no big deal. Free. And then he'll take you to a library and you can download them. It's called something like NTIA RUS Workshop Materials. And these are the application guidelines. I think, in fact, the real applications aren't approved yet by OMB. That's my guess. And so this is probably what it's going to look like. And so they're handing them out in advance to these workshops. So you should get them because it takes the NOFA and it puts it into what the application is likely to look at. We don't know for sure, but it's probably pretty certain. So this is just infrastructure. If you're doing adoption, public computer center, you'll want to download the appropriate one for that. And then they have one that's kind of a generic, anyone who's getting a grant should read this type of thing. So you should get that one too. There's 5 or 6 of them. Okay, step 2. Once you pass step 1, you move on to step 2, and they call it the due diligence phase, and it appears that the feds will ask the applicants more questions that they have about the specific project, and you have, I think it's a 30-day process to respond, and it's a hard deadline, and then they will grant thereafter. Next slide. So the most important date to come out of here with is August 14th. That's when you have to file. The filing window technically opens July 14th, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and it closes August 14th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which of course is 2 p.m. Pacific Time. And I wanted to say to people, it would be really smart to pre-qualify yourself on the site, and then 2, that you try to file your final on August 13th. Picture thousands of people trying to file into the site at once at half an hour before 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The server's going to crash. I hope it doesn't, but it could. So I would strongly suggest that everybody here in California try to file the day before, just to be prudent. Or at least don't wait for the last hour. Just an idea. And there is going to be an official application posted soon, and I think that means as soon as OMB approves it. And there is a website up there, the broadbandusa.gov, where the official application package is going to be posted. We understand that it will be posted before July 14th. So keep an eye on that site. Yeah, everybody's laughing. Those are the people that know OMB. Okay, it's supposed to be posted, one would hope. And you do have to electronically submit your application if it's over $1 million. There's a few exceptions for, I think, disabled people and things like that, but assume you're going to do electronic. I think it makes it easier for them. And they are trying to announce who survives Step 1 on or after September 14th. That gives you a time frame. And then the applicants have 30 days to go through Step 2 and put in additional information. And then NTIA and RUS intend to announce the awards starting about November 14th, just in the nick of time. So it's a very compressed time frame. Next slide, please. All right, this is who's eligible. It's basically everybody. The question was that last bullet, were they going to let for-profits? And the answer was yes.